In this video, I want to answer the question, how do you get into property with no money, or can you do property with no money? And I think some people are very skeptical to think that you can, and they think maybe it's too good to be true, but I want to share what the reality is. It's a topic I've talked about in a couple videos over the last kind of couple of weeks. But if you have no money, can you get into property? Well, the short answer is yes. And what I want to do is just basically explain what the routes would be depending on your current situation. So if you have no money, then that's probably because you're in a position where you have an income and money comes in, money goes out, and there's no kind of real abundance, there's no kind of real disposable income, you're unable to save up, or maybe you're just not working in general. And the first problem you need to fix before anything is your income. So a lot of people want to get into property because they see that, oh, if I buy property, I can get rental income and I can live off that, which is true, but rental income as passive income is very valuable, but it's also harder to obtain. And so people say to me, I want to get to 5-10 grand a month from property, so I'm saving up to buy some buy-to-lets. I'm like, well, that is a very slow way to get to 5 to 10K a month. You're solving the problem in the wrong way. Now, if you want to get that as passive income, great, but I would actually really suggest most people focus on how do they increase their active income, their earned income first. And so if you don't have a job, sometimes getting a job is a good opportunity. It's a good idea. And if you get into a well-paid job, maybe a job like sales, sales is one of the highest paid professions in the world. If you don't know sales, then I'd encourage everyone to kind of dip their toes in it and at least consider getting into a sales role, because in a sales role, you're going to learn extremely valuable skills. You're going to learn how to sell, and underneath that is a whole umbrella. You've got the ability to communicate, to negotiate, to close, to articulate ideas in a clear and easy to understand way. For me, before I got into sales, when I worked as an estate agent at 18, I was this shy, unconfident, didn't communicate well guy. And then getting into sales, when you have to do thousands of cold calls, or you have to go knock doors, you just get better at speaking to people and closing and communicating and negotiating, which, especially in something like property, which is very transactional, is extremely important, extremely useful. And I owe a lot to kind of that sales role that I had for the first kind of few years of my career to help me in property. So first problem you need to solve is income. So that can either be just by getting a job. Like if you literally have nothing, don't be afraid to just go get a job and start earning some money. And I would strongly advise you to consider doing something in sales where you're going to learn valuable skill sets that are transferable. If you're already in an employment, you don't like the role that you're in, the problem with employment is if you want to scale and increase your income, I've said this before, there's only two ways you can increase your income. You work longer hours or you get paid more per hour. Now, to go work longer hours, the problem is your boss might not want you to work longer hours, and there's only so many hours in a day anyway. So that doesn't really solve the problem. Now, you can try and get paid more per hour, but that typically relies on getting a promotion. And with that, there are things outside of your control. You're not 100% in control of getting that. The promotion might not be available. It might take some time. And even then, it might only be a 20, 25%, 40% pay rise. I don't know. Which is why something like sales, but can be more like commission based, you get paid on how good you are and the results that you get. The better you get at the role, the more money you're going to earn. So it's less kind of dependent on how much time input. It's more about how well you develop that skill. The point I'm trying to make is, in order to solve the income problem and the cash flow problem, you want to find a vehicle where you can get paid in proportion to the value that you can provide. This is the beauty of capitalism. The more value you can provide to a marketplace really just being individuals or businesses, the more value is going to flow back to you. So the more value you can provide, the more money you're going to make. And the more valuable you become by acquiring skill sets, acquiring knowledge, building systems, building teams, etc., and putting assets, then you are going to have more money come back to you, which is why I always say learning the high value skill sets like sales, marketing, and all of the skills that fall underneath those or downstream from those are going to allow you, whatever endeavor you decide to go and make a lot of money. I'm confident I could go in pretty much into any industry now, into a sales role or into a marketing role or in anything, and I could probably demand a multiple six-figure salary because of the skills that I have. I know how to sell, I know how to communicate, I know how to lead, I know how to hire, I know how to get things done, because I've invested hundreds of thousands of pounds of my own money. I've invested thousands and thousands of hours. I've listened to thousands and thousands of hours of audiobooks, podcasts, and I've done business for long enough to be able to develop those skills. So what kind of vehicles are there where you can get paid on outcomes? You can get paid on the value and the results that you can generate. Well, if you're talking property, to answer the kind of main question of this video, then there's really two main ways that I prefer. One is you become a self-employed estate agent, where you represent sellers like a typical estate agent. And there's a lot of new models now. For example, with my company, Luxury Property Partners, all of my agents are technically on paper self-employed, but it's a partnership, and they receive a huge proportion, 50% of the fee income that they generate. And so on a £2 million property, they can earn £25,000 personal commission. That just didn't exist in traditional agency. Now, not everyone's going to be able to go and sell luxury property right away. We turn down hundreds of applications because to hire someone to represent our brand and actually be able to get a reasonable job done with the Luxury Property Partners, we have to work only with people that have experience in sales, experience in the industry. But there are other models, other agencies like us that allow people to operate in the whole of market, not just in the kind of £1 million plus market. You can be selling £200,000, £300,000 properties, and you can churn out quite a lot, and you can consistently earn between £5,000 and £10,000 per month. I know many agents at that level, even in the late teens, like 19, 18 years old, all the way in their early 20s, earning really meaningful incomes by working as a self-employed estate agent. Because the beautiful thing is, the better results you get, the more money that you make. Second thing is property sourcing. So property sourcing is basically, it's a estate agency. I mean, it's still governed by the Estate Agency Act. You're still brokering properties, except you're kind of working for yourself, and you're focusing on sourcing investment properties for your clients. So you're more representing the buy side. What I mean by that is you're representing the buyers, i.e. the investors that are buying the deals through you, rather than a traditional estate agent is where you represent the sell side of a transaction. And typically estate agents, we're selling to homeowners, owner occupiers, whereas property sourcing, it's more investment stock. It's less of an emotional decision from the buyers. It's more about, do the numbers stack up? Is the return on investment there? How are we adding value, etc.? There's no right or wrong. It's personal preference. If you want to start your own business, either way, you're kind of technically, as a self-employed estate agent, you are your own business owner. You're more of an entrepreneur, i.e. an entrepreneur working inside of a business. Property sourcing, maybe something that appeals more to you for whatever reason. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm very fortunate. The guys, the team I have, a Luxury Property Partners, are extremely talented. And after kind of 6-12 months of building their brand, building their pipelines, especially from like year 2 onwards, realistically, they should be earning 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, some of them, which is incredible to see. So that's really exciting. So first problem you want to solve is that, but it doesn't have to be anything to do with property. It could be whatever you enjoy doing. If you have incredible knowledge on something, maybe you could sell that knowledge in the form of consulting or mentorship. If you want to get into e-commerce, you can do that. But e-commerce is it's very capital intensive game still. It's not really kind of a super lean cash flow business, especially if you want to play on a bigger level. Actually, a lot of the big e-com guys, until you're kind of pulling in multiple 7 figures, it's hard to take much cash off the table. Even then, the big payday in e-commerce is when you get paid at the end through selling the company. But there's other things. It could be a marketing agency, it could be a creative agency, it could be service-based business. Like any kind of agency is a really good place, I think, for people to start, because it teaches you full stack skills: sales, marketing, fulfillment, client service, etc. And then also whatever technical skills you need to learn. If it's a Facebook ads agency, you get really good at Facebook ads. If it's a creative agency, you get really good at creating creatives for brands to use, that kind of thing. If it's an AI automation agency, you have to get really good at AI and automations and how that can be implemented into people's businesses. I pay agencies probably £10,000-15,000 a month in various agencies and contractors that we work with. So I think the agency model is a brilliant model, and that's what a estate agency is, or property sourcing. It is an agency specific to property. It's providing a service. So that's the first answer to the questions. Focus on solving the income problem first. Second point is, can you get into property with no money? As in, do you need huge deposits to put in to invest? The answer is no. Now, if you just want to be a passive investor and buy ready let or vanilla buy-to-let properties where there's a tenant in place already, there's no real value add, and you're getting a 6-7% gross yield, then it's going to be very difficult. Where you can really leverage using other people's money is properties where you can really add value to. Either you're buying a mispriced asset. I say mispriced, some people say below market value. Ideally a property where you're buying it below what it could be worth if it was marketed properly. There's a number of reasons why a property might be mispriced, or you might be able to acquire it at a discount. Or properties where you can add significant value. So you're renovating it, you're converting it to a HMO, you're splitting it from one house into 3 flats. There's like countless different ways to add value to a property. But when you can add value to a property and really force an uplift in value, and let's say you can really drive like a 30, 40, 50, 100% return on cash, i.e. the money that's been put into the deal, and then you've got commercial financing as well, then that's when you can go to investors and partners and say, hey, do you want to come on this deal with me? Because then the return the investor's getting is really worth it too. If you're going to go buy a buy-to-let with investors' money, the investor might want 10% 12% return on their money, and that buy-to-let might be producing 10, 12% ROI on the cash put in, then there's no real spread. There's no real kind of margin for you. So, which is why if you want to build a real property business and capitalize it with other people's money, i.e. private investors, you want to be focusing on deals where you can add value, you can force an uplift in value, and or you buy at a discount. Now, can anyone do this? I mean, really, to go out and to ask investors to either lend you money or invest in your deals does take a level of confidence, and that confidence is a byproduct of competence, and competence comes from investing in yourself, learning and educating yourself either by doing it or getting around others. And so you might not feel confident, but you have to understand that confidence comes, you should never expect to be confident first to then go do it. Really, it's you go do it and then you get confident. But if you have really skills already, you have, let's say you've worked in construction, you worked in project management or whatever it is, you feel competent enough to be able to successfully deliver and manage a refurbishment project or a conversion project or a small development project, then maybe you do have an edge, and maybe you can leverage that when you go and partner with investors, and you'll have some confidence to be able to deliver that deal. Of course, if investors know it's the first time you're doing a deal like this, they're going to take that into account when they invest with you. They're going to want to see that reflected in maybe the return that they're getting. They might want a higher return because in their opinion, it's higher risk, not because of the deal, more because of you, the operator, or you, the developer, the investor. And in order to do deals like this, you just need to learn two things. One, you need to learn how the money is structured. Before you go ask investors for 250, 500,000 pounds, or even if an investor came to you tomorrow and said, hey, look, here's £500,000. I want to invest in you and some property deals that we can do together. Until you learn kind of the structure of the financing, i.e. the capital stack. So layering of commercial finance and then the private finance that goes in. Is it debt? Is it equity? What legal agreements do you need in place? What corporate structures do you need in place? What rate of return can you offer the investor? What are all the risks involved? And how is that risk priced in terms of, like I say, the return you offer to the investor and how that return is paid back? Until you can figure out all of that, like the actual structuring of financing, forget about even going asking investors for money. That's the first thing you need to figure out. And once you can learn that, and it's quite a complex topic, and I'm going to do my best in a future videos to kind of run through all of that. The second part is how do you then go and have those conversations with investors? And that's just sales and marketing. It's marketing in the sense of you need to learn how to reach out to these potential investors or position yourself in a way, maybe online through personal branding or content creation, to attract these type of people to you. So people with money that can come to you and invest in you. And then once you've generated those leads, you need to learn the sales process. How do you actually have these conversations with people and close them and get them to commit to investing in you? And that is sales 101. It's being able to position yourself in the right way, overcome objections, ask the good questions, because the difference between good salespeople and great salespeople is great salespeople know the best questions to ask and how to ask questions properly, open questions, closed questions, loaded questions, etc. So if you can learn the sales and marketing process of getting commitments from investors and you know how to structure the deals, then of course you're able to raise capital, deploy that money into these deals. You make money, the investor makes money, everybody wins. And like I always say, that is how the big players in the real estate game play. You want to look at the number one guys at the top, Blackstone. They raise capital from private investors. They deploy that money into deals. They generate a return that is higher than their cost of capital, what they have to return to investors. And that is their margin. That is the money that they make. Plus they charge fees as well. Like a lot of these funds, it's a lot of money made in fees. So that is how I'd answer the question. Can you do property deals, or how do I get into property with no money? Hopefully that was valuable. Any questions about any of that, I'll put my Instagram below and drop some comments, so maybe I can answer them on future videos. As always, guys, we're doing 30 videos in 30 days. So make sure you subscribe, like this one, and share it with your friends. Do whatever you need to do, and I'll see you guys on the next one.